Don't get me wrong, nearly every Elden Ring character seems to have contributed to messing up the lands between in some way. However, one character stands out as the catalyst of the crisis the Golden Order faces, and that character is Ranni. But what are Ranni's motives, and why does she have it out for the Greater Will so badly? I'm Pixel Penguin, gamer and psychologist, and today we are going to go in-depth into Ranni's backstory to understand her personality, her motives, and her significance in the masterpiece that is Elden Ring's lore. Let's get started. Lunar Princess Ranni is the last descendant of the Carian royal family. The House of Caria, whose estate is situated in Liurnia of the Lakes, established itself as royalty when her mother, Rennala of the Full Moon, bewitched the Academy of Caria with her command of lunar sorcery. Caria's royal family is a matriarchal lineage, as heavily implied by the lore surrounding it. The moon, the darkness, the water are all attributes archetypally associated with feminineness, as exemplified in yin-yang philosophy. One of the most prominent symbols of Carian female empowerment is found in the item description of the Dark Moon Greatsword. It reads, "A moon greatsword bestowed by a Carian queen upon her spouse to honor long-standing tradition." Most of you watching this video are aware that Rennala's aforementioned spouse is none other than Radagon, champion of the Golden Order. Rennala and Radagon were once enemies, but they supposedly fell in love when they encountered each other on the battlefield. This implies Rennala was at the front line of battle, a testament to her bravery and her exemplariness as a leader. The phallic nature of her gift, a sword, to her betrothed is a sign of the reversal of traditional gender roles in Carian society. Rennala and Radagon get married at the Church of Vows. The pastor officiating the ceremony is most likely Miriel, the turtle with a funny hat. Why is this important? Turtles are actually one of the crux points defining gender roles in Elden Ring. Killing turtles in the game yields turtle meat, whose item description was actually changed when the game released. Originally, turtle meat's item description read the following: "Turtle meat is said to boost virility, but none in the lands between seem to have much appetite for it these days. In the lands between, the urge to reproduce seems to have waned long ago." Now, compare this mention of virility with the item description for the green turtle talisman. Turtles are known as a nutritious ingredient, symbolic of inexhaustible power. However, those who hold turtles to be wise creatures consider the practice of eating their meat to be barbarous. The ones being alluded to in this quote are the Carians. It would seem that, in Elden Ring, masculine power is associated with the conquering aspect of sexuality, illustrated by the Golden Order's campaign to take control of the lands between, while feminine power is associated with wisdom, intellect, and mystery. Radagon's radiance and his flowing red mane are the symbols of this masculinity in the game, while darkness and the color blue, assets of Carian culture, represent femininity. How does this relate to Ranni? Well, Ranni is the last of the children born of the union between Radagon and Rennala. Well, technically the last. More on that later. Radagon and Rennala's children are meant to embody the union of masculinity with femininity. Duality and balance are some of the most important themes in Elden Ring, something which Miriel alludes to in the following dialogue line.
"Heresy is not native to the world. It is but a contrivance. All things can be conjoined."
Thus, as the conjoining of Radagon of the Golden Order and Rennala of the Full Moon brought peace to the land, so was it supposed to bring about a rule of balance between masculinity and femininity. Clinically, all human beings have both what can be ascribed as feminine and masculine energy, regardless of sex or gender, and balance between the two is crucial for mental health. When it comes to the three children born of their marriage, Radahn, Rykard, and Ranni, this balance is symbolized by their proficiency in gravity magic, inherited from their mother, and their characteristic red hair, inherited from their father. But Pixel Penguin, Ranni doesn't have red hair, I hear you say. Ah, but the Ranni we encounter in-game isn't using her original body. Her corpse does, in fact, sport the tint of her red hair, but let's not get ahead of ourselves just yet. Once Queen Marika establishes full control over the lands between, she casts away her consort Godfrey. At the same moment, Radagon leaves Rennala to become Marika's second husband and Elden Lord. Those of you well versed in the storyline know that Radagon and Marika are the same person, a phenomenon which the DLC has shed light upon, and which I explored in my previous video about Mikola, so go check it out if you haven't. It would seem that Radagon's marriage to Rennala was but a political ploy meant to subdue the powerful Carians. Radagon's betrayal of Rennala is represented by Radagon's reforging of Rennala's wedding gift. The item description for the Golden Order Greatsword reads, "Greatsword made of light, modeled after the Elden Ring itself, forged by King Consort Radagon to proudly symbolize the tenets of the Golden Order. Telltale signs betray that this was once the greatsword bequeathed to him by his first wife, Rennala." This act symbolizes the robbery of female power and its induction into a male-centric power structure. Now, in my previous video, I stated my belief that Radagon genuinely did love Rennala, as he bestowed upon her a precious gift, an amber egg, made of petrified sap from the Erd tree. However, a closer inspection of Ranni's backstory has convinced me otherwise. You see, we, the player, obtain a great rune from completing Rennala's boss encounter, but the great rune is not hers. It is referred to, in fact, as the Great Rune of the Unborn. There has been much speculation regarding the name. Is the Unborn a power? Is it a person? Perhaps Ranni, whom Rennala wishes to rebirth? Looking at the original Japanese name, it is clear the word for unborn refers to someone who hasn't been born yet. This leads me to believe Radagon and Rennala conceived a fourth child together, but the child was lost to miscarriage. It is entirely possible the miscarriage was the work of Radagon/Marika herself, as its timing would have coincided with the moment she took grace away from her warriors and created the Tarnished. At any rate, the fact that Rennala was expecting a fourth child is supported by the presence of not 3, but 4 cribs suspended in her boss arena. So, what is the significance of this amber egg? Given that souls supposedly return to the Erd tree, which has life-giving powers, Radagon's gift to Rennala is essentially a materialization of her womb. But, as we can see during the boss fight, she is unable to perfect the birth of the unborn child, as the baby graduates we fight are born incomplete, specifically lacking the use of their legs. This is a symbol of castration, not literal castration, but figurative castration. This idea refers to the confusion of young children when encountering the genital organs of the opposite sex for the first time. Most often, children interpret the absence of male genitalia in girls as a result of having been castrated. This is obviously erroneous. However, it is the basis for many formations and fantasies within the unconscious. Often, as with Rennala, castration is symbolized by the absence of something, or by the inability to perform, an impotence of sorts. This theme is repeated many times in Rennala's story. First, the full moon, which is the source of her power, depicted her as complete and powerful as a woman. Marrying Radagon caused her to share this power with him, as illustrated by her gift of a sword to him. When Radagon leaves her, she is shown as an incomplete woman, unable to produce complete children and bereft of her power, as the powerful Rennala we fight in Phase 2 is only an illusion of her former self conjured up by Ranni. Therefore, Radagon's gift is meant to keep Rennala in a state of mental weakness and prevent her from overcoming her grief. The ability to use the egg to replicate infinite copies of her incomplete child means the actual absence of her child cannot be processed. To compensate for her sorrow, Rennala's mind generates the illusion of completeness, showcasing her delusion of all-powerfulness as a defense mechanism protecting her from the pain of loss. Clinically, this is akin to postpartum psychosis. I believe this was intentional by Radagon, who loves only his power granted to him by the Golden Order. Remember, the Golden Order is being guided not by Marika, but by the Two Fingers, who are the avatar of the Greater Will. Two fingers being another phallic symbol, signifying patriarchal dominance. Let's get back to the main subject of this video, Ranni. Radagon and Rennalla's children each end up choosing a separate path as a result of their parents' separation. Ranni sides with her mother, whom she shares a special affinity with. Radagon emulates his father as a strong conqueror, and Rykard, well, let's just say he goes on to create a different kind of family. In the lore, Ranni's connection with her mother is due to her magical attunement. The item description for the Dark Moon sorcery reads the following. This moon was encountered by a young Ranni, led by the hand of her mother, Rennala. What she beheld was cold, dark, and veiled in occult mystery. Now, it is of the utmost importance to understand Ranni's character development and psychology that we highlight the difference between the full moon and the dark moon. Rennalla's full moon is a symbol of female empowerment through the image of completeness. As such, it is a simulacrum of the completeness of man when we look at the idea of completeness from the angle of the castration complex as well as yin-yang philosophy. So, while Rennalla's full moon assigns her power, it is power represented by completeness, a male attribute, as further emphasized by the brightness of the full moon. On the other hand, Ranni's power is a dark moon, veiled and mysterious, fully taking advantage of the feminine arsenal. Ranni's quest will be one of power through genuine womanhood, rather than displaced manhood. Ranni's pursuit of magic continues with her mentor, the Snow Witch, another woman. The descriptions from the armor pieces of the Snow Witch set read the following. Once worn by the snowy crone who the young Ranni encountered deep in the woods. She was a witch, and well versed in cold sorceries. It is said that the doll that houses Ranni's soul was modeled after her. That old witch was Ranni's secret mentor. The cold nature of Ranni's magical apprenticeship further sets her apart from the blazing red of her father's side, and establishes her firmly in her mother's Carian blue lineage. Moreover, cold magic can be interpreted as a symbol of frigidity. That frigidity is the same departure from male sexuality that Elden Ring assigns through the imagery of the turtle, as I covered earlier. Now, why does Ranni keep her connection to the snowy crone a secret? Well, unfortunately for Ranni, she was chosen as an Empyrean by the Two Fingers, and was therefore designated as a candidate to succeed Marika as god of the Golden Order, the order of male dominance and phallic supremacy, as represented by the Two Fingers. She is assigned a shadow called Blaidd, a half-wolf, to serve her, but Blaidd is cursed to turn on her if she ever defies the path intended by the Two Fingers. Do note that Blaidd will end up being loyal to Ranni, even if it drives him mad, showcasing a devotion which was precisely absent from her father Radagon with regard to Rennala. This is a hint that, in Elden Ring, female power is not a path of dominance and supremacy, but rather loyalty through renouncement. Let's pause here for a moment and consider why the Two Fingers think that Marika needs a successor. As many have speculated before, it would seem that Marika had been growing unhappy with the Golden Order and wanted power for herself rather than being the Greater Will's puppet through the Two Fingers. I'll throw in the suggestion that the Elden Beast we fight at the end of the game, whose shape is ostensibly phallic, epitomizes the association between the Golden Order and male dominance. The Elden Beast would be the third element that, when combined with the Two Fingers, completes a full set of male genitals. Marika desires to liberate herself of the Greater Will's control, but she's in too deep, and the Two Fingers probably picked up on her qualms with the Greater Will. This is why they would have recalled Radagon back to her, as Radagon is the male counterpart, the one who fully revels in male dominance. In my opinion, Elden Ring depicts male dominance as specifically the dominance over the female aspect. This is why it's important to the Greater Will that Marika, a woman, be a figurehead for male control, a symbol of female subservience, and it would explain why Ranni was chosen as a candidate to succeed Marika. Again, the words of the wise turtle Miriel come back to remind us that balance in union is health. Marika and Radagon are melded, or blended, but not properly united. For balance to exist, There needs to be separation, just as the yin and yang are clear black and white. Marika and Radagon are a gray mixture, unable to succeed at true harmony. Alright, back to Ranni. Ranni admits to having orchestrated the Night of the Black Knives. For those who need a reminder, this starts the chain of events of Elden Ring's main storyline. Ranni steals a fragment of the Rune of Death from Malekith, Marika's shadow, the equivalent of Blythe, to devise a ritual which will enable her to rid herself of her body. The plan is as follows. Ranni marks herself with half of the symbol of death, while the other half is to be placed upon someone else. This way, Ranni will divest herself of her body, but her soul will remain intact, while the other person's body will survive, but their soul will be destroyed. Ranni hires a group of Numen assassins to carry out this deed, and their target is Godfrey, Marika's favorite child. Now, many people in the Elden Ring community have speculated that Ranni actually conspired with Marika to come up with this plan. I believe this to be true, as stealing a portion of the Rune of Death would have been impossible without any prior knowledge only Marika could have provided. This would also be consistent with Marika's desire aligning with Ranni's to do away with the Golden Order representing patriarchal dominance. However, whether or not Marika intended for her son to be the target of Ranni's plan is unclear. There are two possible interpretations here. One is that killing Godfrey was Ranni's revenge on Marika, Ranni's stepmother, who stole her father Radagon away from her mother Rennala, the parent she was closest to and identified with. Remember, Marika likely caused Rennala's miscarriage, either through the shock of Radagon abandoning Rennala for Marika, or through magical means. Ranni would essentially be settling the score. Marika took Rennala's child, so Ranni takes Marika's to avenge her scorned mother. The other interpretation is that Godfrey represented the male radiance of the Golden Order, as he was Marika's only known child not to be born cursed. Marika would be inflicting a severe blow to the symbol of the Golden Order's completeness. By sacrificing her child, an act reminiscent of Medea in Greek mythology, Marika is reclaiming her power as a woman by saying that if she can't have it all, neither can the greater will. This interpretation is supported by the Black Knives being Numen assassins, the same race as Marika, and in this sense, avatars of matriarchal power. Do note that the ringleader of the Numen assassins is called Alecto. In Greek mythology, Alecto was one of the Furies, pursuing the guilty for their sins. Marika's sin would have been to subscribe to the masculinity of the Golden Order in exchange for power. To forego power of that nature and assert herself once again as a woman, Marika must repay by losing her child, a symbol of castration, just as it was for Rennala. Now, what is the significance of Ranni divesting herself of her physical body? In the lore, the reason is that she wishes to escape the Two Fingers' control. But why wouldn't the Two Fingers be able to also reach her soul? From an analytical standpoint, it would seem that flesh is the domain of maleness, while intellect, spirit, or absence, as we've seen before, is the domain of femaleness. Ranni isn't afraid to cast away the node through which the fingers have control over her, because she has completely forsaken the idea of fighting male dominance through subscribing to it. Ranni is ready to do away with it entirely, and she fully embodies the idea of incompleteness, so to speak, by getting rid of a significant part of herself. This illustrates the female position, whereby a woman, being already figuratively incomplete through the metaphor of castration, doesn't fear loss. This contrasts with her mother, who is completely consumed by the loss of her symbols of power. Comparing Ranni to Rennala highlights the genuineness with which Ranni subscribed to femininity. Moreover, ridding herself of her body means ridding herself of the male half of her lineage. Indeed, her spirit is touched by powers of the moon, but her body sports her father's red hair. By divesting herself of it, Ranni becomes an avatar of femaleness. The form she chooses is none other than her former mentor's, the Snow Witch, an embodiment of feminine mysticism. On top of this, she introduces herself to the player as Renna the Witch. Renna may be the name of her mentor, or a diminutive form, in other words, incomplete, of her mother's name. In either case, Ranni exhibits her total adherence to the feminine. Perhaps the only remaining phallic symbol associated with her is the tower she dwells in when you meet her the second time, called Ranni's Rise. But Ranni soon leaves the three sisters to walk her own path. Ranni's questline involves you slaying Radagon, who has been keeping the stars from moving to prevent Ranni's destiny from unfolding. Through this act, Ranni has you get rid of her own brother, an avatar of her father, who revels not only in male power, but in keeping the threat of female dominance in check. Slaying Radagon releases a comet, which strikes the lands between, revealing the buried city of Crone. Ranni sends you there to retrieve the Fingerslayer blade, another symbol of matriarchy that was kept subdued by the Golden Order. You know what Ranni does once you bring her the Fingerslayer, right? Slays fingers, yeah. Aside from a cutscene showing actual castration, I don't know how much clearer the game could be. If you choose to side with Ranni's ending, the Age of Stars, after you do your part of the castration business by killing Radagon and slaying the Elden Beast, Ranni gives her final speech.
I do solemnly swear to every living being and every living soul. Now cometh the age of the stars, 1,000-year voyage under the wisdom of the moon. Here beginneth the chill night that encompasses all, reaching the great beyond. Into fear, doubt, and loneliness, as the path stretcheth into darkness.
In this speech, Ranni begins an age built on the idea of incompleteness, fully embracing the feminine aspect. Remember that glintstone sorcery is not associated with any outer god. Her age is not bound by any higher power and doesn't have a set direction. Rather, it is an age of making one's way in the absence of a symbolic father dictating what should and shouldn't be. In this sense, owing to her having witnessed pain and betrayal at the hands of her father and the Golden Order, Ranni turns out to be a feminist in the truest sense, one who doesn't seek to reverse gender roles, but completely do away with them, advocating for the freedom to be unbound by phallic logic and embracing feminineness for itself. Thank you for watching my psychological analysis of Ranni the Witch. If you enjoyed this video, please like and hit the subscribe button, and tell me who you'd like me to do next in the comments below.